Have you ever noticed that persistent voice in your mind? The one that never stops, constantly commenting, critiquing, and analyzing every detail of your life? You might think it's an inseparable part of who you are, but what if I told you it's not? In this video, we'll delve into the mystery of that constant internal dialogue and reveal how you can take back control and reconnect with your true self. Join me on a journey that could transform the way you live. Together, we'll uncover how this voice influences your emotions, your decisions, and the way you see the world. Best of all, you'll learn how to break free from its grip and discover true inner peace. That voice in your mind, so clear and persuasive, is nothing more than the echo of years of accumulated experiences, deeply rooted fears, and learned expectations. While it might seem inseparable from your identity, it doesn't represent your true self. Instead, it's a mental construct fueled by everything you've lived and learned. According to neuroscience research, much of the thought activity in our minds runs automatically and unconsciously, like a background system we hardly notice. This internal dialogue, constant yet invisible, can either be a powerful ally or an insurmountable obstacle depending on whether you let it control you or choose to take charge. When you let that voice dominate your thoughts, its influence can distort how you perceive reality. It's not the event itself that generates anxiety or worry, but the interpretation that voice assigns to it. This internal narrative tends to exaggerate consequences, create stories that amplify fears, and perpetuate the idea that you're constantly at risk or never good enough. As convincing as its judgments might seem, they're not absolute truths. They're interpretations that shape your emotions and decisions. However, by becoming aware of its nature and learning to observe it without identifying completely with it, you can dismantle its power. Turning that voice into a constructive tool that motivates and helps you grow can be the difference between living trapped in fear and enjoying a life of greater clarity and purpose. Since ancient times, cultures like Buddhism have understood and taught this common yet misunderstood phenomenon with remarkable clarity. These teachings assert that human suffering stems from our deep attachment to the thoughts that arise in our minds. Instead of seeing them for what they are, transitory and fleeting, we identify with them, follow them, and let them carry us away without questioning them. Practices like meditation have been passed down through the ages, specifically to help us distance ourselves from this constant mental stream. Meditation, at its core, is a tool to stop and simply observe this inner dialogue without becoming emotionally involved in it, learning to recognize it as a process that doesn't define us. In doing so, we begin to free our minds from the shackles of limiting ideas and gradually experience a true sense of freedom. Now imagine a moment where you simply pause to observe your thoughts without reacting to them. Instead of being carried away by every mental impulse, you just watch them for what they are: images, sounds, and words that come and go. What do you discover in that process? You realize those thoughts are like leaves carried by the wind, moving aimlessly, without a real purpose, and above all, without any intrinsic value. They're fleeting, temporary, and insubstantial. The most revealing part is that by adopting this perspective, you understand that these thoughts, no matter how loud or persistent, have no real power over your inner being. They're not who you are at your core. They don't define you. You are so much more than the voices in your mind. The true key to freedom lies in remembering that you are not the voice that constantly fills your mind, but the being who is aware of it and has the power to choose how to respond to it. The moment you realize this distinction, control over your life begins to return to you. You start to understand that you're not a victim of your thoughts, but the observer who can decide whether to identify with them or not. Reflect on the times when you've experienced the greatest suffering. Don't you see that much of that pain came from the narratives your mind created? Stories like, "This will never change," or "I'm not good enough," fueled your anguish, distorting your view of reality. The act of simply observing those thoughts, rather than giving in to them and letting them drag you into their illusions, becomes a profoundly liberating exercise. By creating a space of separation between your being and those ideas, you allow yourself not only to view them from a more objective perspective, but also to begin seeing life more broadly and serenely. In that space of detachment, you access an inner peace that connects you with your most authentic self, a self that already possesses an intrinsic calm, an essence that doesn't need external validation or approval to feel whole. This way, you become less dependent on external narratives and can live with greater self-confidence, understanding that your well-being isn't determined by what you think, but by how you choose to relate to those thoughts. The next time a negative thought arises, pause. Picture yourself as a distant spectator watching a movie that doesn't concern you. Ask yourself, is this really true, or just a whim of my mind? This simple act of creating distance allows you to break free from the grip of that inner dialogue that so strongly shapes your perception. Try this exercise. When a negative thought arises, calmly smile and respond. "Thanks for your opinion, but I don't need it." This small act has the power to open the door to a mental freedom you might never have thought possible, a freedom that will allow you to connect with a deeper inner peace. Always remember that you are the silent observer, the consciousness beyond the constant mental chatter. This simple shift in perspective has the power to transform your entire reality, profoundly altering your daily experience. Inner chatter is nothing more than a narrator constantly whispering stories to you, often based on fears, insecurities, or limiting beliefs. However, it's you who decides whether to let it control your life or to take the reins and write your own script. The next time that inner voice tries to wrap you in a web of doubts and fears, take a conscious pause. Breathe deeply, resist the urge to react, and remember clearly, I am not that voice. I am the one who has the power to listen and choose what to do with it. In that precise moment of full awareness, the mental noise loses its power, and in its place, a vast universe full of infinite possibilities opens before you, waiting to be discovered. This is the first step toward a life guided by authenticity, inner peace, and true freedom. Thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection. If you enjoyed this content and want to continue exploring profound topics like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content.